Hello and welcome back to another wonderful day in this hot garage because I just turned the air on. Today I plan on fixing this thing. Now, you may be asking yourself, hey wait, didn't you fix that thing last year? I did kind of. I did the maintenance of the lower unit, fixed / repaired the ignition system, put electric start on it with all electronics, and kind of cleaned the carburetor. I didn't touch the fuel pump, and since this is a military motor, had some problems fitting the civilian stuff to the military stuff, so I have a series of adapters in there. It's working, but the fuel pump just doesn't supply it with enough fuel. It runs out of gas all the time. Slow speeds runs perfectly fine, no issues. High speeds, like getting on plane, going for a while, runs out of gas. It's really annoying. In this craft, you get stared at wherever you go. So the last thing you want is an engine that isn't quite performing properly. It's really embarrassing. So I was tooting along in front of this kind of crowded beach, and the thing stopped. Now, rather than trying to restart it, you got to look cool. So, you're looking around, get my feet wet, start it back up at idle, toot out of there until I'm out of view, and then I slowly make my way back on plane and continue about my merry way. But anyway, what I need to do is rebuild / change this fuel pump, rebuild the carburetor. Actually, not rebuild the carburetor. Nothing wrong with that carburetor. Take that carburetor off, take the intake manifold off, take the bypass cover off here, replace it with the proper fuel pump / bypass cover setup, and the intake manifold and the carburetor. So we're basically going through the entire fuel system in this thing. For this project, I have a 30 horsepower civilian carburetor and intake manifold being key. Then I also have the 30 horsepower civilian fuel pump bypass cover assembly, along with hardware for both. You'll see the differences now, but this hose is supposed to be a factory special hose, no longer available. Somebody put this one on here, perfectly fine. I'll probably replace it. Fuel pump looks like it's recently been changed, so I think that one's we're just going to leave alone. Probably just put fuel lines on it, rebuild it if we need to, but for the most part, it's probably okay. We got some dirt and crud into the back, little hole there. We'll clean those up, make sure the bypass cover works, or the nipple, which I can blow through it so it does. Carburetor, we will change this whole thing out, clean and rebuild the carb, put its missing plug back in, and then we should be good to go. For parts, I have a rebuild kit. I have the bypass cover gasket. I have an intake manifold gasket, and should I need it, got a fuel pump rebuild kit. So the lighting doesn't make this engine look very good, but I assure you it's not that junky looking in person. Alright, I gotta take off the starter, which I've taken off so many times on this thing, it seems. I took the, put the original one on, didn't work. Gotta take it back off, clean that starter, and then put it back on. That doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but getting to this thing just isn't fun. I really just don't like pulling starters off these things. I gotta pull the entire bracket, which has to come off anyway for the intake manifold to come off, but it just, I don't like doing it. It's just annoying. Sometimes it's the dumbest of things. You see that pinch? That's not good, especially on this crappy fuel line. So the reason for the clear fuel line isn't because it's good fuel line. You can see gas going through there. If there's an air leak or there's a problem, you can see the gas. So in this case, I could see the gas wasn't flowing, so I figured there's a problem with the fuel pump. Now, as there's a problem with the fuel pump, I figured there's also a problem with my little adapter down there. And the whole system I really just didn't like. Now that I see that, maybe I'll put this thing back together, go throw it in the water real quick and see if there's really anything wrong. New fuel line is made up. Install it the same way the other one was. Now we need some fuel and a battery. Let's see how much gas is in here. Only 3 gallons. Perfect. Now, a lot of people that saw my video for this boat said that the 20 horsepower isn't really going to be enough to push it, and I should look for a 25 or 30. The thing is, a lot of people didn't watch my video of fixing this thing, so they don't understand that it is a 30. It's actually a 35. They just see the 20 hood and say you need more power. So I'm going to go ahead and give it an upgrade. There. Now it's a 30. Doesn't that engine look good on this boat? I mean, the white and the faded black of the motor and the white and the faded black of the boat, you know, the gray of the hood and the gray of the stripe, everything about that motor on this boat, just perfect. I really like it. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the water and we're gonna go test it, see how it does. Well, as it turns out, the fuel line was not the problem. I took it to the water, put it back in, and it runs like absolute trash. Don't know why yet, but that's what we are here to figure out. Compression, I rechecked it. It's still strong where it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. Alright, let's get this intake manifold off. This isn't something you usually need to do. The reason I'm doing it is because the fitting here is for the 5/16 line, where it should be the little 16th inch line, so I needed to run this adapter. I never really liked that idea. Obviously I'm doing it, but never really liked it. So as long as I'm pulling the carburetor off again, I always told myself that I was going to change out this intake manifold for the proper type that should be here. So that is what I'm doing now. Alright, I see no trouble with the reeds. As I rotate the motor, you can see them both opening and closing and hear them sucking air. So we have no issues there. I do see a little bit of specks of dust on them though. So I'm going to just kind of spray them with some carb cleaner and call it good. Alright, that's as good as the camera's getting. It's hard to get a good angle on this cover here and get myself in some room to work, so it's as good as you're getting. No problems with the lid's cracked. That's common, so that's got to get fixed. Fuel pump itself is coming off, so I really don't care what it's like in here. Gonna spin the flywheel. You know, I don't need to. There's enough room to get in there. Yeah, disconnect this, pull this off, spin the flywheel. I shift it forward to get a little bit of access to that screw, but I don't need to. It's not really that bad. All right, clean the gasket surface up. The bottom of the pan here is disgusting, but I'm going to put the manifold back on to protect the inners before I clean and blow that out of there. So that's what's going on with that. Here is the replacement intake bypass cover fuel pump cover, whatever you want to call this thing. This is the proper one that should be on there. This is the one I removed. If you notice we have a hose coming out, that's because it has a little tiny nipple installed right there, which the one we took off doesn't. Also, it has this secondary tube here, which this one does not. It's just flat. So there's the opposite side. So you can see that this was operating the pressure off just the top piston. This pump operates off the pressure from both pistons. I think this can deliver a lot more fuel than this can. This is probably more for like a 20 horse, where this more for a 35, which is odd considering this engine is a 35. What is this doing on here? But I don't know. It's on there for a reason. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be needed. It's possible I just needed a fuel pump on this thing to be able to keep back up with the fuel demand, but this is a little proper, better setup in my opinion. New bypass cover gasket, and obviously the new bypass cover. Cleaned it up a bit, put a new piece of fuel line on. After the thing is on there, I will then attach the fuel pump. Now I'm going to use some of the gasket sealing compound here, just because. Okay, that is done. Should help hold the gasket on there for me. I don't have to fumble around as much. Well, no time like the present to put on our new intake manifold and gasket, of course. And since somebody somehow broke the primer solenoid cap, get that changed out. Well, let me get the fuel line in here now. Use the bypass cover line, which gets blocked by the fuel pump. So right now I am test fitting all of the oil recirculation hoses, primer lines, whatever you want to call them. When these small little fuel lines are new, it's pretty darn hard to get the clamp onto them. So I'm spreading them open just a pinch with my pick here. It's not really helping. Alright, we have some marks right up here on top of our throttle cam. You see them? Those, right when this throttle cam hits it, they need to be between there. My problem is it hits it back here and just increases it as we go. So we need to adjust this screw, which removes this whole kind of apparatus. We'll put it right there. So throttle cam. Will just begin to move right when it hits that mark. So what I have done, I put it on the first line. This is closed. So in theory, a little more tension, and it'll be right between those two lines. And our throttle cam will just start to move. Which goes right in there, and you can see it's preloaded. And by the time it gets to the second line, yeah, we've started to move. So I think right where we have it is right where we want it. Well, I'm here in the water now. It's a little low. It's supposed to be coming up. So I'll push the boat in the water, make sure the engine starts, and if it does and it seems okay, we'll head out. It's running a bit high. A little bit of a hiccup there. We'll do some carb adjusting. Alright, so the primer solenoid is completely dead now. So that's getting fixed. I don't know if you can tell how I did that. Put my hand over it to choke it. We are in some shallow water. And I'm probably a couple inches from the lower scraping on these rocks. I think I need to cruise over on the left side. Should do it. I'm going to lean on the front of the boat. Help me plane out quicker, I think. Well, that was 20 minutes or so of upriver run. Some people are going to be saying that things should be going faster, and I completely agree. It seems like it's lacking a little bit. Guessing here, at 3,000 RPM or so, that's pretty much my max speed, so 3 to 5, there's no speed increase. At least not enough to think about, really. So what I think it is the lower unit down there somewhere is propped for a bigger boat, much bigger boat. Something a Navy SEAL team would probably use. And this little thing, it's too light. Too big of a prop for it. And again, it's not like I can re-prop it. What I think I'll do is put a standard lower unit on here, try it with an actual propeller, and see how it goes. I think it'll go much faster. Some people now are going to complain about the views you get on this thing, saying I need to get further back. Well, this thing is basically a sheet of plywood with an outboard on it. There's no room here. You know, I could lay out on this thing and that's the end of the space. So, not much to do. Otherwise, it seems like we're running good. Next video is going to be, well, I don't know if I'll make a video for it, but fixing the primer solenoid, because it ain't working now. Uh-oh, got some jet skiers coming. Check it out. Fixed. Has a new Sierra rebuild kit, replacement lower half, and a little wire grafting in to take the different style, let's call it, of solenoid and let it work on here. And we are back in business. And here's how the boat currently sits, because I sold it. I don't know. It was a little single, or well, 1.5 seater really. Little boat. I couldn't really take the family out in it. None of my friends wanted to be seen on it, so I don't know, I just kind of grew bored of it, so I wanted something else. And especially with the addition of my little bass boat over here, I just didn't want it anymore. So yeah, it is gone. Now the sale of the boat, it really deserves its whole own story, because it involves the CHP, local police, and local sheriffs. So yeah, keep an eye out for that video. So until next time.